Okay guys, we're going to take another look here at Cardano's ADA. We're going to give this a brief, quick update as to the price action and what the expectations are with ADA going forward. So as you can see, we're here on the weekly chart, and we can obviously see those 5 impulse waves to the upside. We obviously see that this kind of started off with March 2020. Wave 1 obviously was the peak around July of 2020. Into the later part of the year, we saw bottom of wave 2 going into wave 3. Now, wave 3 obviously peaked out in May, and we have now started to see wave 4 come in. Now, we're actually a little bit short on our standard 40% move here for wave 4, so there is always the possibility of a potential pullback a little bit lower than where we currently sit. This might actually just fall down towards a little bit lower on the chart here towards the 80-cent area. But otherwise, I think everything for Cardano is actually holding up quite well for this 4th wave correction before we get into that 5th wave where we start to see the price of ADA rise significantly. Again, this is kind of scoped out between $7.20 and $10. But again, there's so many things that could extend this bull run. It could go into a super cycle scenario. And again, some of that fundamental stuff that's outside of the scope of the technicals could also help with pushing the price of ADA a little bit beyond that $10 range, maybe $15, maybe even $20. So there's lots of kind of stuff going on here with Cardano in the real world, and ultimately a lot of that adoption is likely to come, and we'll start seeing some interesting price discovery here for ADA. Now, what we're going to do is jump down into our daily view. And on this daily view, we're just going to zoom up so we can see exactly what's going on. So when we take a look at this from a daily perspective, we can obviously see the fall down from the higher areas here. We can see that we actually came down to this dollar level. We tapped that recently and we rebounded right away from there. And this is a good solid support line for us at $1. Now, obviously, we talk about potentially falling down towards the 80-cent area. This is the next kind of support level for ADA. And again, it's possible, depending on what else happens with Bitcoin. We do think Bitcoin is actually following a bit of an accumulation, a Wyckoff accumulation pattern here. So the expectations, even now we've just had this pullback, which again we were expecting. If anyone was watching our Bitcoin video from earlier today, we were expecting this pullback, and then we're going up towards 40K. And again, this is probably something that's going to happen slowly, gradually over the course of the weekend going into next week. Once we hit 40K, another pullback and another push to the upside, right? And this will all be before we get dragged right back down to 30K. So in terms of Bitcoin, ADA is doing exactly what we'd expect it to do, considering here we can see Bitcoin, we can see ADA in line with Bitcoin is being pulled down. And again, this looks like it's coming to a bit of an end. So when we actually take a look at this pattern for the daily chart here, we can see that, yes, we came down, we touched the dollar, we rebounded, and we had 3 very good days pushing the price back up. And again, we're having this correction. Now, this correction on this daily chart was not something that would take us by surprise. It was very much something that we were expecting. We can see that the relative strength index is nice and low at 42. And again, when we take a look at this on the hourly, again, it's very much aligned to that as well. Worth just bringing up the volume here. You can see that sentiment for ADA is still quite fearful, in line with what is going on here from the generalized fear and greed index. Now, when it comes to Cardano's ADA, it's actually a C3 rating for the fear and greed index, and not as fearful as some of these other altcoins, but it's important that we do pay attention to what the sentiment is looking like. So on this basically a daily chart, we can see the volumes decreasing whilst the price was pushing up, and then we can start to see that selling pressure coming in. Now, that seems to be quite low, a slow selling pressure. And I see this is because ultimately Bitcoin's nearing its bottom for a correction before it starts its motion to the upside, which will mean that ADA will also follow suit. So let's take this down into our hourly view. And here we can just take a look and see what's going on here with Cardano. So again, what we're seeing is significant selling pressure at this point here, bringing the price down after a bit of a price push to the upside. Again, we can see this within that relative strength index as well. The volumes are actually decreasing whilst we're decreasing the price. So that sentiment that we're talking about here from a fear and greed index and from the AI from 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗡 is actually not quite aligned to what we're seeing here. Actually, we're seeing the sentiment shift, which means that ultimately we're running out of steam as we push the price down with the lower volumes. So right now we're looking to actually see an increase in volume as we decide to push the price back up in line with what Bitcoin is going to be doing over the weekend into next week. So we are obviously correcting this relative strength index in line with the price moving down. And again, we're actually at a 40 level. So a pretty reasonable position here for Cardano's ADA as we correct down. Now, looking at support levels, we actually seem to have come down to a pretty reasonable one, and we're getting a bit of a bounce from there. So again, my expectations are that we're not likely to really fall much lower than this area here. And again, this is an area of resistance that we were testing quite heavily previously, and we're just turning it into support here. So that's actually a really good, clean sign the things to come moving further forward. My expectations at this point for Cardano is that we're actually going to start getting a reversal and push to the upside, although the rest of the day may be still red candle, but tomorrow will be a very green day in my opinion. So we know that we're good support level just here coming in, and this is something that we were talking about a couple days ago around that $1.28, with the boundary being about $1.38. We actually pushed a little bit above that towards $1.40. So again, in the range of what we were talking about 2 days ago. So again, if that's of interest, do check that video out. We talk about resistance and support levels for Cardano's ADA. So right now, nothing is out of the ordinary. This is again following what we've been talking about. So again, finding the bottom and looking to push the price up in line with what is happening with Bitcoin. So right now, we obviously have a reasonable relative strength index. We have decreasing volume. We found a support level that's likely to hold in this case, and we're going to start seeing the reversal of this. Again, we take a look at Bitcoin. We can take a look at this at the hourly point of view, and we can already see that Bitcoin is getting the reversal as well. And this is because we're oversold, and we're going right back up. So right now, our expectations were to bring Bitcoin down towards the 32,200. We actually pulled this down to 32,500, and now we're starting to see the push back to the upside. So Bitcoin is doing exactly what we think it's going to do. We can see that Cardano is again doing exactly what we thought it was going to do a couple days ago. That's playing out nicely. So the expectations are that we're going to be steadily rising up now towards $1.50, potentially going into next week. We'll try to battle some of these key areas of resistance, and we'll have a bit of a pullback. Hopefully we'll get the pullback as we approach 180, and then that will line us up nicely to go and break the 183 resistance line going into probably about 2 weeks from now. I think that's going to be a pretty good stab at where things are likely to go for Cardano's ADA. So lots going on here, guys. Obviously, outside of the fundamentals, there's lots of additional things happening in the background as we go into July. We're going to see some significant, new news kind of put out there for the testnet on Alonzo and all that kind of good stuff. So that's going to have an implementation, or an impact, I should say, on the price here before Alonzo rolls out onto the mainnet towards the end of July, beginning of August. And again, all of this kind of fundamental stuff is outside of this technical stuff at the moment. So we are expecting some interesting things to rise here as we move further forward. Again, we can put some trend lines on here, but these are usually the weakest things to kind of look at. But again, in line with what we're seeing here, this is actually not performing too badly at all. It seems to be following all the kind of expectations that we're looking for Cardano on the short time frames. And again, if we go back up into our daily view here, again, the expectations of where things are moving along nicely. So again, this kind of correction here is what we were expecting. We're going to be pushing up a little bit, heading towards a little bit of the resistance area, about $1.48. We'll probably get a rejection from there briefly, before actually going ahead and getting a pull down again. So we'll be watching and monitoring that situation. There's lots of consolidation around some of these key areas here, specifically $1.48. It's going to be a bit of a battle for Cardano to push through there. So once we take a look at what happens on the hourly view, we'll see if that sentiment starts shifting and changing that we're starting to see in the market here, with an increase of buying volume as the price does rally up. And ultimately, we'll start seeing some significant price recovery for ADA before we have another pullback on the Bitcoin side of things, which will of course have an impact to ADA. And guys, this is going to be something that's going to be quite turbulent. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster of a ride. We're going to see prices move up and get pulled down a few times over the course of a work-off accumulation with Bitcoin, and as a result, ADA will be affected by that. The good news is, guys, I do anticipate that the work-off accumulation should come to an end by the end of July. That would actually tie in very nicely to Alonzo going onto the mainnet, which would then mean a significant price rally for Cardano's ADA. So guys, I'll keep this nice and brief and short. The expectations are that we had the pullback today, which we were expecting. Tomorrow should be a green day, and we should see significant growth on ADA. Guys, if you found this useful, then do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. And of course, if you happen to be new to the channel and you'd like to stay up to date with the news, the technical analysis, those new cryptocurrencies and hidden gems, then do go ahead and subscribe. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with everything we do here. It is free. You'll stay well informed. So why not? Tap the bell, hit on the all notifications, and you won't miss a single thing. With that said, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.